Hi, everyone, and welcome back. It's great to have Hamish Conway from Sell Global here today. So, Hamish, welcome along.
Thanks very much, Jesse. Great to be here.
My first Kiwi on the podcast, I think. I think I've had an Aussie, but maybe not a Kiwi. Alrighty, we'll try not to talk in too strong an accent so the rest of the world can understand us. Okay, do you want to give the audience an intro to you and your business and what you've been up to?
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, so Hamish Conway, and I own an agency called Sell Global, and we're an Amazon specialist agency, and we're into our 8th year. Okay, so I started selling on Amazon back in 2013, which is a sneaky 10 years now, and with my own products and brands, and then that evolved into helping existing companies who are generally selling in other channels to also go, well, how do we sell on Amazon? We've worked with over 300 different brands, and we've learned a lot in terms of what works, what doesn't, and maybe share some of that today.
Awesome. When should a brand decide, like, what are the kind of trigger points, or what's the stage at which it makes sense to start selling on Amazon?
Now, it'll depend on which country you're in. If you're in UK and Europe, where Amazon is present, or the same in America, then my answer is actually quite early on in the piece. You'd want to obviously have your brand established, your socials established, your own website working, having all of that done first. But as soon as you can, then to move into that. And the reason I say that is because Amazon is such a dominant place, a marketplace for shoppers to go. They're in that habit of being there. So if you being on the platform gives you a lot more discoverability. There's opportunities to build your brand awareness and actually then draw people from Amazon over into your own ecosystem, because people will, depending on the product, right, and price point and how curious they are, they'll go Google you and they'll find your website, they'll look at your socials, what are people saying there, and then they'll decide to buy where it's most convenient for them. And often if they're a new to brand customer, buying on a marketplace like Amazon is really low risk, because if something goes wrong, they can get a refund. So there's a lot of trust that you can borrow from Amazon. And then ideally, people get your product and consume your product and then want to engage more with your brand, and then they'll start to follow you. And then they trust the reviews there as well, and they like the price comparison. It's not always about price, right? We'll talk about that later, but it's an easy comparison for people to make. If you're in a country like New Zealand, where we are, it's a different story. Like you really, mostly because you're going to be up against a lot more barriers of distance in terms of freight, you've got compliance, and you really want to have your business being more solid and stable and really having pushed the domestic market a lot more before and building up a bit of a war chest to really give it a decent crack, just because you've got higher kind of barriers to entry, just given that compliance and distance to deal with. Yeah.
Interesting. What I'm hearing you say is if you're in the US or the UK, if you've got product market fit and you're kind of the product selling, there's a demand for it, and you've kind of established the brand, then unless there's a strategic reason not to, then it could be worth going on Amazon. I mean, I guess I would counter that by saying sometimes these things can be a shiny object when you as the entrepreneur, you need to make sure you've got the resource and the time to be able to fully exploit the channel. It shouldn't be something you kind of just like dabble in a little bit. Like you need to really commit to doing it well. It will take some time. So do it, but do it really well and make sure you're ready to do it well. If you're not keeping up with the orders on your site, or you're very distracted trying to crack your marketing on Facebook, it might not be the best time to add another thing to your plate. Having worked with lots of entrepreneurs, that can often be the problem of like trying to do too many things at once. I do agree with you on the discovery. I've been that person myself when I lived in the UK and shopped on Amazon a lot, like discovering like food brands and things like that through Amazon and then shopping with them directly afterwards. In terms of like, not all products work on Amazon, although Amazon sells almost everything. Are there any kind of product categories that stand out to you as being like absolute no-brainers, or product categories that are kind of doing really well at the moment that you think really stand out as being like a great fit for an Amazon strategy?
I look at this is a really hard one, right? From the very beginning, it was super easy to find pockets of opportunity, and I was buying products out of China, putting a sticker on it and sending it in, and anything would sell, from spill stoppers to like car seat protectors and everything there. But the game has massively transitioned to, the number one thing is you have to have a great product, and regardless of the category. So a product that does what it says on the tin, and ideally it's got a defensible point of difference. And so that could be from a design point of view, from an ingredients point of view, something that is going to be hard for people to copy and replicate. So regardless of the category, and because otherwise you'll just fall by the wayside, because it is competitive, right? There's hundreds, if not thousands, of other competing products that you're up against. So it's got to be really good. Then there's probably a few other things here just to go right. It needs to be like e-commerce friendly from in terms of size and bulk, right? Because otherwise you kind of get pinged, and your margins are really important. You've got to have margin in this, otherwise you end up not being profitable. So things can be big, but the price point has to be higher, so it's relative to that. Look, I mean, this is such an interesting thing. I like consumable products, but again, that's some of the more competitive areas, and it's not impossible to get after these categories, but Amazon does favor the incumbent. Even if your product is better, just the fact it's been on the platform and the algorithm has it locked in on a whole bunch of keywords, and they've got 10,000 ratings and reviews, and they know the conversion rate, so they're just going to keep on presenting that one there, and you've got to work and earn your way through, regardless of the category. So so health and personal care or grocery, like those consumable type products, those categories can work really well, but it's just a tougher game to actually win. So it's going to take you 18 months until you kind of feel like you're winning. 18 months, like seriously, it'll take that long. So you've just got to be prepared for that game and not expect in those competitive consumable type categories that, because in many cases you're up against multi-billion-dollar conglomerates, so who've got big budgets. So you've got to pick your battles, and again, it comes back to having a great product and a point of difference. And so, I mean, for example, we work, I'm thinking of consumables like health supplements, right? So there's a New Zealand company we work with who had this broad range of supplements, but a lot of them were just in really, really competitive areas. But there was one in around telomere, that one specific niche that there's not as many people doing that, and this product works really well. And so it's like one product in there. This is in the US. So then that now 6-figure channel for that one SKU. So it makes sense. So yeah, I mean, look, in some ways, what I like, that competition's marketing is generally weak, and in some cases that could look like in the agriculture space, or like in some, where it's more of a techie or engineering type of products there that generally really good at making stuff but bad at marketing. Whereas often you find with a lot of the, be it snack foods or that sort of area there, like the marketing can be really good because you just got to be really good to sell it. Some other things that are harder to make work is clothing. Now, and this comes down to a number of factors, because Amazon likes evergreen, always the same, and you might have some clothing items like a staple, like black top, that's always going to sell well, but it doesn't work. So, seasonal kind of changing year after year, that's harder for Amazon. And also you just got multiple sizes, and returns, can be a real problem in there as well. So it's not to say don't do that, but you've got to have a very focused range. So I might not have answered your question because there's so many moving parts. It's almost like what not to do, but the product that works, consumables good, the margins have to be there, given the weights, but every category has possibilities, and then finding how you're going to win in that particular category is the key.
Interesting. That's so interesting. So the 18 months thing really piqued my attention. So is that 18 months to be kind of delivering a good, solid, kind of consistent revenue in a category that's fairly competitive?
Yeah, so it's generally like if you're starting from scratch, because you've just got to build your momentum, relevancy, and indexing on the keywords, and you've just got to build your way up from the deep dark pages, to the first page, and it's really a function of what you're able to or prepared to invest in advertising homepage. And early on, if you're prepared to do that, that'll help your rankings and give you more speed. Generally 18 months, I'll say that's where you're feeling happy about the profitability, because your organic paid split is starting to favor organic over paid. But it can move quickly. Like I know we've had this, two stood out to me where it was going along at about $10,000 a month for the kind of got to $10,000, and it was really hard to move above that. Might go to 11 or 12. And then after 12 months, in the next 3 months, it went to 30. And then in the next 3 months after that, it went to 100,000 a month. And it was just that kind of little hockey stick thing where a combination of repeat purchase and indexing and reviews, and then it just kind of and optimization and changes, and then it just really started to move on the channel.
Amazing. Yeah. And I'm from hearing you and thinking about it, it's very different from paid social or Google, where you get back what you kind of put in instantly. Like, so yes, we usually talk about a 3-month optimization period where if a brand's new or hasn't cracked ads, say, it takes about 3 months, unless they're really, really unique and have really great ads from the get-go, for us to figure out the combination of like ads to, the creative and the landing page and the setup and all of that. But then once we've got that, we can kind of scale it, but it can go up and down from there after that. And it's not like it's like, oh, it's going to suddenly go from 10K to 30K to 50K, because it will depend. It could if you spend that much, but it sounds like with Amazon, once you crack it, it kind of delivers those return, like it continues to then deliver as long as you maintain your position, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's quite exciting to me as an entrepreneur. That sounds like, yes, you've got to have a long-term view and you've got to kind of commit to getting there. But once you get there, it's a nice tap to have on.
Yeah, it's that medium long-term play. And so, and you've got to stick at it. There's a brand who does really well on Amazon out of New Zealand, $15 million hair care product, Boldify. And the interesting thing there is, asking him the question around, what's your secret sauce? And it's actually consistency. It's constantly doing the basics really well, making the tweaks, making the changes, and just eyes on it, and constantly improving. And then it's the steady upwards trajectory. So it's
wow, amazing. So do you want to give us an example of like a client you've worked with that's kind of had that success? What strategies did you employ? What does that day-to-day kind of consistency look like?
So it's one of our first clients in the agency back in 2016. So they sell these beeswax crayons, and they were, a circuit. They were selling through retail channels and a little bit on the website. But we took they really shared 3 SKUs and 1 hero product and these are crayons that your kids could eat, and they're food grade and amazing, right? So talk about that defensible point of difference, and there's actually quite a few factors come into play here, like, and even price, because it was a premium product. A lot of people go, oh, can I do premium on Amazon? You absolutely can. So their price point for these, a 10 pack of crayons, about yay big, high, little ones for kids to hold easily and what have you, was $22.99 US, which is around 30 at the time, was like 32 to whatever NZD, or a lot compared to what they'll literally double the price of what they were selling them for in New Zealand in the shops, the retail price. So, but and compared to Crayola, which was about 1/3 of the price, and interestingly, they outsell Crayola on Amazon with these premium crayons. So it's a really interesting story. But so it was easier to get going at that stage, and so things did kick in really nicely. But then how they grew is they had some longer, skinnier crayons, but then they hanging off that hero product, which still sells like crazy today. Like, this is this evergreen thing, right? It's still the main product, but then they've added this new product extension. So they've taken expanded what the brand can do to, like, bath crayons, that actually come off, or bath bombs and cutlery in books. And so they've really started to build a brand, around not just a single SKU, but they've really built the story of the brand, and then also grown to other countries, and just consistently looking to, so they're in the UK, they're in Germany, and all through Europe, and they're in Australia now, and even I think Japan coming up. And so they've consistently just gone, right, what's next, but made sure the fundamentals, in play. And every time there's been an upgrade, every 3 months, Amazon does something different, that they do that thing, improve the A+ content, because there's now new options there, or it's just that consistent improvement there over time. And now, very, multi-millions on the platform. So it's an interesting example, starting small and then just building. But that's been a 7-year, probably, coming an 8-year journey, right? but that's one there that springs to mind.
Yeah. So great product from the get-go, premium, which gives nice kind of margins for them to be able to scale the business. A unique point of difference. But then you guys launched them on, was it you that actually launched them on the platform, or they already dabbled a little bit when they came to you?
No, we launched them from the get.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so what does that launch process look like? Client comes to you and says, we've got this product. What are you actually doing for them to ensure they have the best chance of success and getting it to work in that 18-month time?
Yeah, we start by let's have a look at the demand. And there's tools that we can use. And if you look for them on Google, you can find them, a bunch of them there and around. What are people searching for and the estimated search volume? Because Amazon's the only one that really knows it. And when you get an account, you actually can then see the actual search volume. But for that category, you start estimating what it is. And then we look at the competition to go, okay, well, what kind of sales volumes are they doing? Again, there's some other tools. There's a number of them there. There's like Helium 10 or Zon Guru would be two, kind of basic ones there to start with. So you can kind of estimate the sales. They're not very good at estimating Australia because we've got a lot of data for Australia and they're out by a lot, but that's another story. So you're looking at the competitive set to go, okay, what are they doing well? What are they ranking for? Are they doing a good job of their brand presence, etc.? And we're really trying to find this, how do we go and compete? We're looking at the value equation of, price to what is the, what are people getting for their money and what's our offer going to look like? And, can we compete? So we do that background search, like really important to understand the size of the prize but understand how you're going to compete. And then with that there, then we roll into the commercials and we go, okay, well, based on, what could we charge and where we're going to need to charge, what are our margins? Amazon takes 15% on the top line commission if you use their warehousing, which is highly recommended. That you've got FBA fees. That will depend on the size of the product. And it might be, $5, for example. I'll use that as an example there. And then, we work at a margin level SKU level margin. And then we start to go, well, that won't work. What if we bundled? What if we did a 6-pack instead of a single pack? And you kind of, again, start to play around with the offer to make sure you've got margin there. And really, you're looking for margin that is definitely at a GP level after taking into account Amazon fees, your COGS, your freight, warehousing, excluding ads for now. You want to be 30% is a good target. Definitely above 20. If it's below 20, it's just not going to work. And then it's like, okay, we make some decisions there, might reduce down. Okay, these are the SKUs that make the most sense, that we've got the highest probability of success. And then we do a channel forecast, going, right, what's our ad cost likely to be here? We can find the cost per click and then go, well, and we know the typical conversion rate for products at different price points and how to make them convert. And so we look at conversion rate. We're looking at the organic paid split. And then we go, well, you're going to need to invest this much in ad spend per month to kind of get this sales velocity. Might have to change price at the beginning to get more velocity and get the conversion rate up. And so we look at those kind of tools and then go, okay, 12 months, this is what we could really expect. Is that worth playing for? And then it's really then making a yes-no decision about the channel. Because before you invest that time and energy to go, let's do this, we want to make sure that it makes sense. There is a third piece, so competition, commercials, and then compliance. There is compliance to consider in terms of, it's boring, hate it, but it's there in terms of packaging or safety, labeling on there, and if you're selling into the US, you've got FDA if it's food or health supplements, etc. So you've got to make sure that's all covered off, and or children products certificates, and there's all those sort of things there that a lot of people, big mistakes people make, they kind of overlook that, and that'll just stop you on day one. So it's really important to and we've got a long list of, there's at least 21 items on it that we know things that go wrong, from trademarks to trademarks being part of it. That's actually really important. You want it, the country you're in, not hard to get, but as long as no one else has already got that trademark, which is, that actually right there stops a lot of people going into another country. It's like, okay, that brand's taken. And then a little segue, having a trademark on Amazon gives you what's called brand registry, which opens up a whole lot of marketing options, including A+ content, storefronts, ability to video ads. So it's really important that you have that actual trademark locked in. So,
quick question: what is A+ content?
So
you've mentioned it.
If you look on Amazon, when you open up, you have the titles and bullet points, and this is on a desktop at least, and then you have like 6-7 photos. But then if you scroll down a bit, you've got some additional content there that you can put in and around the brand. You can show other products, like comparison charts that you can do of your products, and it's a great way to handle a lot more of the concerns or objections and a better shopping experience on your product listing. On a mobile, often that A+ content comes up higher in the the experience. So yeah, so it's really, yeah. And maybe I'll touch on that now as well. So it's kind of like, first of all, just got to go, is this a good idea? Can we do it? And often people at that point go, right, there's a lot more to this than I thought. I like it, but that's next year, or we've got a few other priorities to do first, but that's really useful too. There's no point playing a game that you don't actually know what the playing field is and what the rules are. So that's often really the best way. If it's a yes, then it gets down to opening and Amazon. Oh my God, like this is a major pain. Like it's the hardest account you'll ever open and try and keep. But particularly in UK, Europe, they just want to know everything. It is crazy. So getting an account open, but then the brand content and the product listing content, it's like the foundation just must do really well piece, like world class should be the benchmark. And this is where actually for marketplaces, Amazon has a lot of scope for what you can do. You do a good job with Amazon, and then that you can actually use it even on your own socials or on other marketplaces as the baseline. But you've got your individual SKU listings with images that often shoppers are only looking at the images. So your images have got to have like key messaging embedded in it with text, and that's all they saw. You're going to answer their questions, handle their concerns or objections in advance, and get them to hit buy now before they scroll and see all the competing options. So you've got that. A+ content we talked about before. There's great opportunities to cross-sell or upsell or downsell and tell a bit more of the brand story. And then you've got a storefront, which is like a website. And you have different tabs for different categories. Great for video and a great customer journey, almost decision tree type of thing. You've got posts on there, which is a bit like Amazon's kind of answer to, social posts. People can follow you on there as well. And so that's really important to get right. If you don't have as many SKUs, it's even if you've got three minimum is what you really want to go in with, you can do that. And it can just be simpler. But there's actually quite a few touch points in terms of your brand that you just really, big mistake we see people who dabble at it is they just make a meal of that and then conversion rates drop and it just doesn't work. So that's really key part to get right.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a ton to it, definitely. Understatement of the year. We've talked a bit about this, but are there any other big challenges that D2C brands face when selling on Amazon, that you've kind of come across that are typical kind of pitfalls or mistakes they make? You mentioned not kind of optimizing their profile and using all those opportunities. Anything else that's kind of in the compliance, obviously, but anything else?
Yeah, I mean, compliance is usually it, from shipping into countries, that take that stuff seriously. Like it's where details matter more than anything. And then actually, it's just Amazon. It's kind of like a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with it because there is just weird stuff that happens that there's no logical reason to it. That listings can be shut down, accounts can can run into problems there. So it is just you'll think it shouldn't be this hard, but it is. It is. So that's probably the thing. And there is obviously I've got an agency, so we help companies, and that works for some and not for others. But either way, whether you work with an agency or not. More so, if not, then you've really got to self-educate as much as you can in terms of these nuances. Get into some forums or groups there where people can help with the weird stuff.
I mean, I guess it's very similar to Facebook and Google advertising, where you can get your account or your ads disabled quite at random sometimes. Yeah. It's just something that happens. And as an experienced agency owner, I know that it happens a lot, and that there's ways to fix it. Yeah.
We've got a client at the moment who, with Halloween coming up at the end of the month, so they've got this peak month, and they sell effectively glow in the dark spray paint, so it's got this kind of long lasting glow. And so he's invested a bunch in products, like a lot of products, and we've got opened up the inventory capacity. But if people don't follow the instructions on it, it can not work as expected. And like one of my team said, they got 3 1-star reviews yesterday. And I'm like, oh shit. And so this, that could like quite quickly become a problem. That listing could get shut down. So so with those ones there, we're having to, be ready for that to happen, literally, because it's like a disproportionate volume of sales and therefore reviews at the minute. And so you just got to be all over that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Can you talk us through like Amazon paid advertising? What are some of the best practices for running that well? Is it essential to kind of launching? Is it always something that brands will be running, or is it optional? How does that all work?
Good. Yeah. So Amazon ads is, I think, one of the best paid advertising opportunities for products. It's it's not essential, but very highly recommended. Like it is a critical thing. Like if you were to look at the growth of Amazon ads, it was well behind Meta and Google, but it is now it's snapping at their heels. It's obviously a lot to catch up because it's very product focused, but it's one of their most profitable arms of the business as well. And it's so our take is, like, if you're at launching, you have to use ads. It's the way you get on the first page. If you don't, then it's just a very, very, very long road.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ad opportunities. Like there's some 48 different ways to go about it. Like, so it's increasingly become more and more complex. But if you break it down into the basic options, you've got the sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display. And then, so sponsored products is the core one that it started with, where you're either branded search. If people know your brand, you're bidding on that, so the competition doesn't get in, or category search terms that relate to that, such as kids crayons or non-toxic crayons, for example. For the honey sticks example before. So when people type that in, you're showing up at the top of the search where it's got a little sponsored. Or if you're using sponsored brands, you could have the whole headline at the top, which will then take people through to your storefront. And then you have middle of that sponsored products, you have middle of the search and bottom of the search as well. And so they're the core ones there that you just like, the kind of the engine room, you could say, and you can be targeting other specific ASINs as well. So when you open up a product listing of a competitor, Crayola, say, then there's advertising options available there as well, so you can target in there. Now,
wow.
There's a lot, and there's sponsored video. Video is actually, if you've got good video, 30 seconds or less, really goes amazingly well, because it goes right across the page in the middle, or it can be on competitors' listings as well. So video ads are performing extraordinarily well. But ultimately, what you do with advertising starting out is you kind of go broad. You're trying to find out, well, what are the performing search terms, and then you move those into exact, and then you can start to optimize the bidding there. Like the broader, it's a higher, well, it's going to perform less than exact. So that's one thing there at a high level. Probably nothing unusual about that, but account structure is really important in terms of, often people will have high price products with low price products all in the one campaign, or high converting or low converting, and it just messes with the metrics, and it just means it's going to put budget to the one that's performing better, and the one that's not is just not going to get anything. So we're really big on splitting out, is getting more and more granular. Like we'll end up with, in some cases, like 10,000 campaigns, that are splitting out by SKU and search term and different bid types. So that's if you've got like a couple of hundred products that you're marketing, it can get quite big. And to do that, we also use software, AI, that primarily helps with the bid management and the budget management, and will transition from research into exact for us, and so it works to targets. But mostly the account structure, people just get that really wrong. I mean, look, super complex area, but at a high level, it's like absolutely using it, and it's an essential part of the success criteria for Amazon, and you do it well, and keep on adding new targeting types. And we like to measure TACoS, so total advertising cost over sales, rather than ACoS, because the whole point of advertising is to get your rankings up so your organic searches increase as well. So if you're keeping 10%, you can ramp up your ad spend, and your sales will go up, but you're just operating inside of that channel. And that's really how to scale. It's just getting more targeting types, more impressions. Just that's really how you can scale. And it's great to see when that happens, how brands can quite quickly. Like we had a food brand that was sausage casings, would you believe? Talk about niche. Like started out, and we just applied that, a strong TACoS at the beginning, and within, I think it was about 6 months, they were doing 30,000 US a month. So it was, and the graph was just upwards and to the right.
Amazing. So yeah, I think TACoS sounds similar to what we would talk about in like as blended ROAS. So we're taking the total amount of advertising spend and then the total revenue that's happened on the Shopify site, and that's that ratio, rather than just looking at what's happening inside the ad account, because we know there's things that the ad account is driving organically, but also organic traffic is driving the paid. So it's really difficult to separate them. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly the same
Yeah.
concept.
Cool. Okay. And then just quick one on pricing strategies. Like you mentioned, working through with the beeswax crayons brand, like they were pretty new to market. So you could probably figure out a price that's going to work and hit the margin they need. How does it work when a brand already has a price on their website? Do you have to match the same price on Amazon, or is it sensible to go more expensive because people won't be paying shipping? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's a really really good question there. The consideration is that right. I mean, there's again a number of ways to do this. You might have products on Amazon that you don't have on your website. Like they could be specific to Amazon, and that gives you a bit more freedom. Typically, though, if it is a like for like, you can be the same or exactly as I said, less to offset any shipping that may be required. I think there's probably like out of the gate you go, well, this is our target price where we want it to be. But, price is definitely a factor in building velocity. And velocity on Amazon is really important because it's showing relevancy, and which is conversion rate. For every 100 people that hit, you want to be converting, the average is 10%, like 10% is Amazon's average. So it's kind of higher than a D2C website. So often out of the gate, we will have a lower price that could look like either from a coupon or just a straight out lower price, and then you can increase it gradually. You can't just go from $20 to $30. You've got to do it $1 at a time over time to lift it, or Amazon doesn't like that. And because of the sheer volume of people coming through the site, it doesn't matter. Like you just have this launch window that's what you're doing for 6 weeks, where you are just going to have a lower price to get that velocity, because that will then help you going. I remember when I was selling car seats and car seat protectors in Italy and Spain, and I, for whatever reason, it had picked up the UK £9.95 and made it €9.95, and at the time it should have been like $50, but I ended up, and I didn't pick this up for 3 months, so this was a bit poor, but it meant it was the number one seller in car seats over 3 months. Again, this is back when it was easier to do this, and then I bumped it back up to $15, but it stayed the number one. So it was kind of an interesting little accidental experiment. But yeah. So I think, coming back to pricing strategies, one, you've got to be making margin, but two, this is where you're considering pack sizes as well. Because like often we'll have companies will go, we've got a lower price product here for people to try it, and then we've got a bigger bundle here for those that are repeat purchase, right? That's a better value to them, but the bundle works. So you've got to consider that. Like we've had some companies start out with a 10 pack, but the price point was maybe a bit high. Like when you get over $50, you've got to work a bit harder to sell, but they end up going with a 5-pack, and then straight out of the gate that worked better. And so sometimes you've just got to experiment with different pack size to see what's going to work. And even if you've got that value of the bigger one is better, but you still got to get people in. You're going to get that entry price point as well. So it's a really interesting one, but you can do premium. Like actually the honey sticks example tested $19.99 and it didn't sell any better at a lower price. So there was, so it's $3 extra actual GP. It was interesting, right? Those little tests. That's where you get to test and experiment.
Yeah.
That was one that stood out as like, interesting. Just put that back up to $22.99 because it's
making more money. Yeah. That's so fascinating. Yeah. There's so many variables to test, and I'm sure a lot of kind of psychology goes into it as well. Awesome. So before we wrap up, what do you see on the horizon for Amazon? Like anything kind of big changes coming or trends that you're seeing that you're kind of planning ahead for?
Yeah, it's changing all the time and a lot. And the key thing at the moment is driving off Amazon, TikTok, Pinterest, Google, Meta, using Amazon in the US at least has introduced Amazon attribution, where you can get a rebate of 10%. So normally you got to pay 15%, but you can get back 10 of that 15. So 66% of it you can get back.
Wow.
So it's really, Amazon's going, hey, we don't want you to buy off these other platforms. We want people to buy on here. So we'll reward you for sending traffic to Amazon. So and there's even an algorithmic boost as well. So so with influencers going, hey, here's an attribution link, and you can track this, or Pinterest just to is kind of opposite. That'll have a longer shelf life on it. or Google ads, just focusing in on like 3 or 4 of the main search terms you want to be ranking for. And this is where it's heading. So it's kind of building your own audience and controlling your own audience. And I really see, and this is for a lot of the people that you in the C space, it's not just one thing. Like, I don't really recommend people just go to the States and just do Amazon. Like, that's a bad idea. Like, I'm really hard. So it's more around what is the whole ecosystem that we're operating in here, and it all feeds each other, and it's like a rising tide lifts all boats. So it's really thinking about how you incorporate all of the, Amazon's one marketplace. It's obviously a dominant one, but considering marketplaces, your own socials, and how do you get it all working together well to either send traffic to Amazon, and then those people, back maybe with an insert card there to get them back into your socials, and so you can control the conversation with them. So it's really that whole integration of the online omni-channel approach is really what I think brands want to be paying attention to.
Yeah. It's the same message that I preach to our clients. You can't just run ads in a vacuum. You have to, have a great website, have great social media, have email marketing, have a position, a point of view, a story, and be consistent across all of those, and have great customer service. Like, we're building brands here. I think the days of like just being able to, like you did, buy a product in China, stick a sticker on it, it's very unlikely that people are going to make their millions from doing that only. Right. So yeah,
that's interesting times.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming along. And where can our audience follow you and hear more from you and Sell Global?
Great. So we're at global.com. That's probably the easiest place there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming along, and I'll see you soon.
Great. Thanks very much, Jessie. Appreciate it.